a guy who's better with words than I am. He's a great speaker, a great singer. He was J.D. Sumner's nephew. I hope I've got that correct. Is that right? Yeah, J.D. Sumner's nephew. It reminds you a lot of J.D. when he speaks and talks and when he sings. He was a great part of the Elvis family. Started out singing with the Stamps behind Elvis, and then Elvis took him and separated him and put him with two other guys and formed a group called The Voice, which Elvis actually owned and was manager of, and The Voice was always on stage with Elvis, and thank goodness he's here today. Ladies and gentlemen, my dear friend, Mr. Donnie Sumner. Yeah.
I was sitting over there just a few moments ago pondering about what y'all possibly were thinking, and y'all were looking up here and saying, boy, aren't they lucky. But y'all are luckier, we're luckier than you are, because we get to see y'all. If there wasn't no y'all, there couldn't have been no us. Thank you so much for your favor, your continued support. It's good to see all my old buddies, my family members. I'm going to tell you the truth now, not everybody that was associated with Elvis was class. There was a whole bunch of rednecks working for him. But there was four gentlemen that I always hold in high esteem for always having class, always having the right language, which in those days was a prized commodity. Their morals were their own private investments. Nobody knew anything about them except what they saw in public, and I always held them in high esteem. One of them was a guy by the name of Jerry Shelley. One of them was a gentleman by the name of Joe Esposito. And the other two are here today, Dr. Nick and George. I mean, they always personified class, in my opinion, and it's a pleasure to be with them and everybody else. And Patty used to fix my hair when it was real long. I used to go down the street in Vegas in those tight pants and that beautiful long-haired guys would go. Then I'd turn around and I'd have a beard and go. It was somewhere in the late 50s. I was living in Chrisfield, Maryland, and my daddy was a Pentecostal preacher. Him and Jimmy Snow was preaching real hard against Elvis Presley, thinking they was corrupting me and all my little buddies. And Daddy wouldn't let me be like all the rest of the people at school with Elvis records, but I found one with a white church on it. And I knew if I could get that church in the house, Daddy'd let me play it because it had a church people on it. And my first introduction to Elvis was his Hand in Mine. It wasn't long after that I began to notice him on the news because I liked the way he sounded on that record because he had a quartet with him, and I've always been a quartet fan. And I saw all them girls falling out and fainting and running up, grabbing her and kissing me. I decided when I was a little teenager I was going to be like Elvis Presley. I went through college, got into the Stamps Quartet, made my little tiny mark in gospel music, and one day in Minneapolis I met the late Elvis, and I was one of his backup singers, and boy, you talk about an attitude. No. I was really making it now because I was getting closer and closer to being just like Elvis Presley. My hair was long, but I've started getting it even longer, and I started trying to get it just right because now I wasn't in show business, buddy, I was in show business. After a little huff from Hawaii, I left the Stamps Quartet, and Elvis was kind enough to hire myself and Cheryl Nielsen and Tim Beatty, put together Voice, and I moved in with him and became part of the family. And boy, I was really like Elvis now. I was eating his food, I was riding in his cars, I was living off of his money. When I went with Elvis, Mr. Presley gave me a little pack of credit cards, and the whole time I was there, the only thing I did was sign E.A. Presley, DHS, and they never questioned anything I signed, and I never turned in a receipt. People said, was Elvis rich? I don't know, but if he wasn't, if he was broke, it was partly my fault. Because I handle those credit cards just like I'm an Elvis Presley. I've always wanted to be handsome, and I never got that one. But when I was with Elvis, I did almost 2,000 concerts with him, and every night he would see to it that every one of the backup artists at some point got in the same spotlight he was in. That means that over 2,000 times me and Elvis was standing in the same spotlight. Boy, I was almost like him. I'd stand up there and I'd go. You imagine you're in a room full of about 18, 20,000 people, 6 carbon white arc spotlights are on you and Elvis, and every eye is focused to that spotlight. There ain't nobody watching you. I could have took my pictures off and nobody would even know. But there I was, man, I was trying to be like Elvis. I always said that when I retired, I was going to have a house just like Elvis, and I was going to have a television in every room. And I just bought my retirement home, and buddy, I got it. I bought me a one-room house. Thank you for the memories. It was a fairly hot August the 16th morning, 29 years ago. I was in Lakeland, Florida. And I was in the home of a Pentecostal preacher, and we couldn't watch nothing except the weather in Sesame Street. All of a sudden the news came across the airwaves that the superstar, Elvis Presley, died this morning at his home in Graceland. First of all, you know what my first thought was? Well, he did it. I remember on several occasions we'd sit around and he'd be mad at somebody about something. He said, I'm just going to go somewhere and hide. I'm going to wait till all this goes over and I'll come back. My first thought was, well, he's figured out some way to slip him back. I mean, he ain't dead. Then J.D. called me, wanted me to come to Memphis. I tried every airline in the whole state of Florida. I tried every private aircraft place in the whole state of Florida. And a flight out of Florida on that day was an impossibility. And I've always regretted that I didn't get in my car and drive all night for the funeral, but I couldn't because I was in services down there and I couldn't break my schedule. And kind of gave up my dream on being like Elvis. A lot of my spirit went with him. I've known a lot of people in my life, but I've never had anybody outside of my family, my biological family, who ever treated me any kinder or had any more input into my personal living than my friend, the late Elvis. And with his passing, a lot of me left. And now I'm just left with my memories and my friends. And at this point in my life, they're some of my most valued commodities. But I read about a place where there's a whole bunch of Gracelands. And nobody's ever going to be sick no more. Ain't nobody ever going to hurt no more. Nobody will ever lose any friends anymore. And I believe with all of my heart that one of these days, in the not too distant future, I don't believe, I will receive myself a brand new body. It won't have any aching joints. And as much as I love Dr. Nick, I won't need his professional services. I'm going to see a lot of people that I've known, some I didn't know. And for the first and only time in my life, and for the rest of eternity, I'll be able to say, I'm just like Elvis.